I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the show, The Garage, the court of public opinion and the future of radio. Live streaming if you happen to be there on Friday. And to do that, you just go to jeremycordeaux.com and enjoy the show and call us if you'd like to. I'd love you to. And you can text us as well on the Friday on 0491 65 68 60. 0491 65 68 60. And we'll have some fun. Friday was fun. It was. How are you, Pete?
I'm good, thanks, Jeremy. How about you?
Good. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. Went to the dentist on Friday. Are you all right?
Yes.
God, I hate going to the dentist. Must be terrible to be a dentist, you know. Nobody actually wants to go in and be there.
They have a high rate of nervous breakdowns.
Oh, well, I would think they'd have a terrible rate of nervous breakdowns. And it beats me as to why anyone would want to be a dentist, but God bless you. I mean, all right, yes, there's money in it, but hell, it would be a challenging sort of profession. Samantha Maiden, who is very good at getting scoops. The prosecution of Bruce Lehrman. Now, I don't know how she got this, but anyway, it has been found that the prosecution was okay, but the inquiry that they have been conducting was damning with regard to the conduct of Shane Drumgold, the Director of Public Prosecutions, or so says Samantha Maiden. He's been on leave, I don't know. Well, I've quite forgotten for how long he's been on leave, but clearly there's more to come. Millions of dollars are going to hang on the detailed findings of that inquiry. But hold on. Brittany Higgins is now being sued by Linda Reynolds for defamation, if you haven't heard already. Wow, this whole thing, from go to woe. I've heard of a lawyer's picnic, but this is starting to get ridiculous. Now, Joanne sent me on Friday, she sent me this little thing, text, which, as I've said, you can do as well, coming up next Friday. She said, I might like to investigate why Dan Murphy have told staff to wear the Yes T-shirt, which they have provided. Okay, now that was Friday, and I have investigated it. It seems, 3AW were onto it as well, but it seems that Dan Murphy will talk you around the mulberry bush. No, it is not policy. It's not in our handbook. No, it's not, no. Sort of kind of funny denial, but no. Are you asking your staff to wear a Yes T-shirt or not? Wouldn't answer the question. Now, the staff don't like the idea, and I don't blame them. You go into Dan Murphy to buy some booze, you don't go in there to be lectured on something like The Voice. Pathetic. I think big business, and let's face it, Dan Murphy's is part of the Woolworths organisation, I believe. That's very big business. Why do you want to get involved in politics? Not a smart idea, frankly. I was listening to Parliament. I think it was on Thursday. This voice thing is not only ridiculously expensive, but it's taking up so much time. We've got millions and millions of things that we have to worry about here in Australia, and endlessly they are going around that same mulberry bush, around and around and around, talking about The Voice. 3% of the population, ladies and gentlemen, and not even a majority of that 3% of the population want this bloody thing called The Voice. It's like climate change. This government is driven by ideology, not common sense, not clever. Speaking of the not clever department, Donald Trump is looking at his fourth indictment. There was the, Pete, you might be able to remember better than I can, there was the porn star accusation, hush money or something, and then there was the documents that were taken out of the White House, and there was something else. Well,
No, I can't remember the other one. I remember those two, but I can't remember.
now, it really does look like they're determined to get him. This indictment has accusations of misleading justice. Could it be politically motivated? Of course. In Washington, of course it can. Of course it can. But he is still the most popular Republican candidate. And you find this amazing situation where he could well be indicted, not only indicted, but convicted and put in jail, but still able to become president. That's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing.
Well, apparently he can pardon himself then.
Well, he could pardon himself. Look, if it isn't a presidency, it's certainly a wonderful soap opera. And he's no stranger to those. He did the Apprentice thing for ages. I heard, by the way, a brilliant question from Pauline Hanson in Parliament on Wednesday of last week. It went something like, now let me get it right. Could Minister Wong, Penny Wong, explain why electricity prices in South Australia are higher than anywhere else in the country, yet we are the state which has most benefited from renewables? You said renewables would be cheaper. Why is South Australian electricity the most expensive in the nation? What a question. I think that's belling the cat. I really do. What a great question. And what did we get from Senator Wong? Nothing. She's so calming. So, placid. This lovely lady, just placid. No answer. There is no answer. How did these stupid people get elected? When you open your electricity bill, you might ask yourself the same question and ponder the next election and what you might put on your ballot paper. You remember we had a royal commission, a very expensive royal commission, into aged care, not so long ago. Well, now we are going to have an inquiry. It seems the question is going to be, who's going to pay for aged care? We're an aging population. Something that was much discussed in that very expensive Royal Commission. At least half our aged care facilities, according to the story, the rhetoric, are losing money. Half are losing money. Why? Why? Well, because after the Royal Commission, they are demanding that we do our job properly. Shock horror, that's expensive. A registered nurse, 24/7. Proper staffing numbers. Good food. Oh, God, look, something's terribly wrong. Nursing homes are expensive already. Ask anyone who has mum and dad or granddad and grandpa in a nursing home. And they are taxpayer subsidised, and now they are talking about a Medicare-style levy? Or forcing people to hold back some super, quarantine it, ring-fence it? Whatever. I tell you, the profiteers in aged care will just keep putting their fees up as each opportunity presents itself. I want to talk to you more at length about aged care. We're all going to face it, either with our parents, grandparents, or indeed ourselves. We're going to deal with this, and we do not want to be screwed. We do not. Look, if I've got the time, here's an interesting story. Came up on Friday in the live broadcast, which I hope you might join us on next Friday. Prisoners, I mean, you would have seen it maybe over the weekend somewhere, but we certainly did it Friday. Prisoners in our jails are better fed than the elderly in aged care. That's a much more detailed story, which I'll link up with the other later. But speaking of prisoners, Corrections Victoria have confirmed that prisoners will be given teddy bears. Pete?
There's no man.
Teddy bears. Can you imagine this fellow with the beard and the tattoos? And, 3 teeth, and he's been basically a hitman, or God, I don't know what he's been in his life. I mean, he who was without sin cast the first stone, but for God's sake, prisoners will be given teddy bears. Teddy bears! Trauma teddies. I had to double check the story. It's not April the 1st. No, can't be an April Fool's Day joke, but it's true. Some teddies are going to have Aboriginal flags attached to one leg. Oh my God. At first sight, it looks like some woke nonsense. I don't get it. The people in jail are mostly violent, nasty people with little or no empathy. Can you imagine them wanting to cuddle a teddy bear? What would the other prisoners do to a fellow inmate in the exercise yard after having been spotted cuddling a teddy bear? I don't get it. It should be that the victims of crime, get the trauma teddies, not the perpetrators. It reminds me of that rubbish a few years ago when, faced with an explosion of teenage pregnancies, the kids, the girls and the boys were given lifelike baby dolls. They cried and they wet their nappies and woke up 4 times a night. Didn't bloody well work, did it? Seemed like a good idea at the time. I know. Well, what did we do? We just stopped talking about teenage pregnancies. That was the easiest thing, wasn't it? I wonder what happened to all those dolls. Obviously purchased at taxpayers' expense, I would think. Another adventure down the rabbit hole of nonsense. And on Friday, when I did this story on the live broadcast, jeremycordo.com, a text, if you want to send me a text on Friday, it's 0491 65 68 60. That's a text or a phone call. It was Kathy, and she told me, don't dismiss the idea of teddies for prisoners. She said, "Didn't you ever see The Birdman of Alcatraz?" Yes, I did. Pete, who was in that?
No, I remember the film, but it wasn't James Cagney.
No, it wasn't James Cagney. No, it was Burt Lancaster, I think. I think it was Burt Lancaster. And she went on to say, somebody is in jail to be punished, but also to be reformed. You don't want him to return to business when he gets out. A prisoner could be better reformed if he was given something to love. Now, look, I think you're right. I think you're right. But your suggestion of a puppy or a bird, gee, I don't know. Think about it. Look, Kathy, I think you're a beautiful soul. I really do. And you could be right. I'm not a psychologist. But just imagine how victims of crime would feel. They have, what? Given that brute a puppy to look after? Huh? A lot of things to balance, Kathy. Have I got time for the dates, Pete?
Yeah.
Okay, August 7. August 7. 2018, Australia's population hits 25 million people, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This day, August 7. Nancy Wake, on this day in 2011, New Zealand-born World War II secret agent, special operations executive she was. She dies on this day in 2011 at the age of 96. I had the pleasure of talking to her on at least one occasion. Maybe it was two, but I certainly have talked to her. They called her the White Mouse. Remarkable, charmed life that she survived, what she survived. Speaking of spies, Mata Hari, Dutch exotic dancer, courtesan, convicted German World War I spy, born in the Netherlands, died 1917, born on this day in 1876. Elizabeth Bathory, Hungarian countess, and the world's most prolific female serial killer, born in Hungary in 1560. Woo. George Washington creates the Purple Heart, the original name for which was the Badge of Military Merit. He was the commander of the Continental Army, George Washington, this day 1782. Oliver Hardy, American comedian, dies at 65 in 1957. Greg Chappell, Australian cricket batsman and captain, born Adelaide 1948. Musician Johnny Cash, 22, marries his first wife, Vivian. She was 20. John Heathcote, English inventor of the lace-making machine, was born in Derbyshire. Pete, do you say Derbyshire or Derbyshire? Derbyshire?
I think it's Derbyshire,
Yeah.
I think.
Died in 1861. Yeah. Lace-making machine. I've never actually thought about who makes lace or how it was done. Defeat of the Spanish Armada. In 1588, on this day, the English set alight 8 fire ships with pitch, brimstone, gunpowder and tar, and cast them downward or downwind towards the closely anchored vessels of the Spanish Armada, scattering and destroying the fleet. Clever bloke. Clever bloke. 1960, David Duchovny, American actor. X-Files. Born New York City, 1960. Jacqueline Kennedy becomes the first U.S. First Lady to give birth. Patrick Kennedy, since Mrs. Cleveland in 1963, that's in the White House. Francis Drake's fleet returns to Plymouth after a year spent raiding the Spanish for treasure. This is after he sank all the Armada. He was a clever bloke. Peter Jennings, Canadian-American news anchor, dies of cancer, sadly, at 67 in 2005. And the first performance of Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth, performed in the Great Hall in Hampton Court Palace for King James I on this day in 1606. And Shakespeare has been boring the pants off kids in school ever since. I don't know that they still study Shakespeare. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Jeremy Cordeaux, Peter Clayton behind the camera. The Court of Public Opinion will be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself. Thank you for viewing, and goodbye for now.